Good afternoon, everybody, and I, Shreya Gupta, welcome you all to the 14th edition of the Delhi Literature Festival 2026. Centered on the theme Sahitya, Sanskriti or Samriddhi, we return with fresh conversations, new perspectives, and a continued curiosity about words and the worlds they create. Today's program brings together writers,
Hello.
thinkers,
Check, 1, 2.
and readers
One. Hello.
across
Hello.
genre and experiences, inviting us once again to reflect, question, and engage. We extend our sincere gratitude to the Culture Ministry
Hello.
and Ministry of Home Affairs for their support, Oxford Bookstore, our bookstore partner, and venue partner IGNCA. I would also like to thank NDMC, our associate partners Amul, Gale, Paytm, Vodafone, our media partner Prasar Bharati and Waves OTT, and most importantly, thank you to the audience who have taken time to show up, because literature truly comes alive only when it is read, heard, and shared. As we begin today, we carry forward the resonance of day one. We remembered and honored late Shri Vinod Kumar Shukla ji, followed by inaugural session and author awards, and the day concluded with Acharya Prashant. With these reflections, we now step into day two, which is ready for Ms. Seema Anand, who has a huge social media presence. We have a session with Mr. Anand Prasad, also on love and romance with Ms. Stuti Changle and Ms. Harini Srinivasan. We have Hindi poetry. We will discover nature in Delhi and end with Ms. Shunali Khullar Shroff. With gratitude and anticipation, we now move ahead into today's program. And I'm delighted to introduce our speaker, Ms. Seema Anand, a London-based mythologist, storyteller, sex educator, and a celebrated global authority on the erotic texts of ancient India. Best-selling author of The Arts of Seduction, a self-styled patron saint of pleasure, Miss Anand is on a mission to show when it comes to pleasure education, the past far outperforms the present. She hoards books and handbags with equal devotion, convinced both can change a life because knowledge and style are both equally powerful weapons. Beyond the written word, Ms. Anand has become a globally influential voice online. She has more than 1.7 million followers on Instagram. Can we have a huge round of applause for Ms. Anand? And a popular presence across YouTube and other platforms too. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Seema Anand to the stage and to take this conversation forward on her book, Speak Easy, a field guide to love, longing, and intimacy. I invite Ms. Shunali Khullar Shroff. Can we have a huge round of applause? The author, podcaster, and writer, whose latest book, The Wrong Way Home, and known for her insightful take on modern Indian life, popular culture, feminism, parenting, travel, and art. So everybody, can we have a huge round of applause for both of them? Thank you, and I request you to take the conversation forward.
Sorry to keep you all waiting. We were just waiting. We were told that some more attendees are expected, but Seema was restless.
Yeah, I understand there's an Uber and an Ola strike and all sorts of things are happening in Delhi today. But all of you were here and I just feel always it's disrespectful, right?
It is. So, well, here we are. And we all heard that wonderful introduction to Seema Anand. She herself writes that she is the anointed patron saint of pleasure. I saw the kind of adulation she was getting backstage. Young people, people of slightly older age, everybody wants a moment with her. And Seema, I'm just saying this on, I just observed how gracefully and graciously you are handling this kind of spotlight that is now on you. But how and when did this start? I wanted to, dial back a bit and go to the fact that you were You're a scholar of the Kama Sutra and the Mahavidyas, ancient treatise on goddesses and sex. And from there, you have now become this internet sensation, social media sensation, and you also look sensational. So it's sort of all tying in very well. Just take us through your journey a bit.
Okay, so pretty much like everybody else, I grew up in post-colonial India. I was born in 1962, so you know how it is. You go to school, you go to college, वही चीज़ें पढ़ाते हैं जो उस time पर पढ़ाई जा रही थी. I can quote Shakespeare backwards. I knew nothing about any of the Indian texts, क्योंकि किसी ने कभी पढ़ाया नहीं. The only thing we were ever taught was Premchand. And frankly, nobody ever taught us Premchand nicely. तो रो के वो वाला हमने पेपर भी पास किया. Anyway, grew up and knew as little as anybody else. Had my children with my third child, my daughter. I was sitting up one night feeding her, and I started thinking, because I've always worked with stories. I believe stories are very powerful. Stories are what define us. You know, when we tell stories ke wo raat ko aadmi ghar aaya, he was drunk, usne apni बीवी को मारा पीटा, but वो इतनी अच्छी है, देवी समान है, कभी उसने आवाज़ नहीं उठाई, देवी समान है. Sorry, I've got a drink in this, and वो diet coke गिरेगा. Sorry, that's my poison. Diet coke. Anyway, and so, you know, Devi Samane kabhi usne awaaz nahi uthai, and so we have then now allocated the identity of the good woman as somebody who keeps quiet. So stories are very powerful. And I've worked with stories all my life, but then finally, when I was, like I said, my third child, sitting with her, feeding her at night, I suddenly realized one day that we tell stories of a woman's role in everything. Sirf, we never tell stories of a woman's right to her own body. Her body is always somebody else's property. She needs permission from somebody for her pleasure. And I remember just sitting there thinking, this is not the world I want for my children. Where are those stories that we shut down? I had no idea about these because I'd never heard them. So I went looking for these stories, and I just said to myself, kahin na kahin to ye kahaniyan hongi, because we wrote the Kama Sutra, damn it, koi to kahani hogi. Went looking, read the Kama Sutra, knew as little as anybody else about it, reread it, went to college, learned a little bit more, and it started from there. And my biggest learning curve, because the first time you read it, it's like an accountancy ledger. It is, it's a taxonomical this thing. There are 500 types of kisses. If you turn your head to the left, it is the left side kiss. You turn your head to the right, it is the right side. That's how it is. It actually denominates things. So it didn't actually teach me anything till I realized that actually the Kama Sutra is written in metaphor, much like any other Shastra of ours. It's written in metaphor, and you have to learn about those metaphors. And I then eventually discovered that 2,000 years of our literature have been inspired by the metaphors of the Kama Sutra. Everything from Kalidas to Bhanudatta to, you know, you read any of the Sanskrit plays, that was the time of the epic romances, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th century. They're amazing, all of these stories. The metaphors come from there. And that's how it gradually started. So that's why I say that I'm the patron saint of pleasure, because truly that's what I really want to talk about. Aajkal main daldal mein phasi hui hu. Because the state of sexual abuse is so bad that that's what I have to talk about more. I just want to go back to talking about pleasure. I just want to talk about the beautiful things. But yeah, that's where it started, Shonali. And gradually, I then went and got my accreditation to be a sex educator, got my certificates, my degrees on that. But that's where it actually started, with pure pleasure. And just to finish with one thing, I realized that the moment you talk about this subject, it's like you've created a safe space. People can't go anywhere else to ask these questions. The moment you start talking, they just think, acha, idhar pooch lete hain. Let's start with somebody who will actually talk to us about it. And that's where it actually started.
But you know, it's so interesting that there is, I mean, it's the most desire, is the most basic human, is the most basic human thing, right? It's a want, it's part of who we are. And yet, centuries later, it has just been covered in a shroud of a narrative which suits only men. Shame has been attached to it century after century. And there is so much, there's an aura of confusion and perhaps even a little secrecy around it. Why do you think this changed?
I think it gradually changed because that's what society needed. And people say, oh, you know, it's the imperial rule, that the British came and so on. ऐसा नहीं है, उनको अब गए हुए भी काफ़ी टाइम हो गया है. हम लोग अपनी माइंडसेट चेंज करने को तैयार नहीं है बिकॉज दिस सर्व्स अस. ये हमारा पर्पस सर्व करता है टू से कि द वुमेन्स रोल इज़ हियर, द वुमन बिलोंग्स हियर. It suits us. It suits us to be able to justify the sexual violence. It suits us in all sorts of ways. And all of the people who these days say कि अरे नहीं हमारे संस्कार के खिलाफ है and so on, they haven't read these books. और अगर वो पढ़ें भी, so they wouldn't want to. You know, I find it amazing कि पहले the British started with banning a lot of the books. So there is a beautiful book by Kalidas called Kumar Sambhavam. Kumar Sambhavam is the story of Shiva and Parvati getting married so that the birth of Skanda can happen. Kumar, Lord
Right.
Kumar. And uski jo last canto hai, the last chapter, that is where the two of them consummate their marriage. First the British banned it because they said it's too graphic.
Yeah.
अब वो फिर से बैन हो रही है. Okay. We have another book called Radhika Santavanam, where Radha's niece is married to Lord Krishna. And Radha अपनी niece को तैयार करती है शादी के लिए and gives the niece to Krishna and then teaches Krishna कि she is very young, how you make love to her. इतनी जोर से किस नहीं करना. She's not used to it. Her lips are tender. Like she literally teaches him. This was written by Muddapalini, I think in the 17th century. First it was banned then, then it was banned by the British. After we got independence, it was banned by the Indians. It's just because it talks about erotic pleasure.
But dharm, arth, kam and kam, dharm, arth and moksha, right?
Dharma, arth, kam, moksha.
Karma, arth, kam, moksha. So these are the tenets of Hinduism. And if these are the tenets of Hinduism and they're the foundation of human life, right? And moreover, in fact, the Kama Sutra, from the little that I understand, the whole framework takes into account ethics, society, social structures, and desire. It's not just physicality and just the physical desire. And I find it astounding that not only have we left that education centuries behind, what I see around me today, sex is just a physical, the way it's being promoted, the way women are being, the way
Objectified.
not just objectified, it's actually violated.
Violated. Yeah.
It's really being done as if there's no humanity in it. And if this does serve the society's purpose, my question is that society is also 50% women. And we are talking of modernity today. The younger generation is more aware. And yet, one gets the feeling that they really have no idea about it.
But if you think about it, okay, in our generation, जो भी हमें सिखाया गया था, and we all have internalized misogyny while growing up, ठीक है, हमें सिखाया गया था कि I remember as a younger girl, अगर कोई भी छेड़छाड़ होती थी, and if you ever complained, your friends would tell you, तूने क्या किया था?
तुमने क्या पहना था?
तुमने क्या पहना था? You must have done something. So I grew up complaining, fighting from a very young age. But the men are taught exactly the same thing. No? We're all taught exactly the same thing. They're taught that this is what must have happened. They're not taught that, no, you have to be accountable. So, unfortunately, a lot of that is being passed down to the next generation. So, half the people are listening to us saying ये बात ठीक नहीं है, ये सही नहीं है, ठीक तरह से सोच के करना चाहिए, we are in our own control. आधी जनता वही मीम्स पेजेस से सीख के आ रही है. You tell me कि अगर मैं ये, जैसे मैंने अभी राधिका संतवानम की बात की, this book, how many people would have even heard of it, let alone read it? How many people would have read Kumar Sambhavam? How many people would have read Dashakumar Charita? You know, हम पढ़ते भी नहीं हैं, हम सीखते नहीं हैं, हमें ये it's not made possible for us. And I'll tell you something, a lot of these books, they were written obviously in Sanskrit or in Tamil. You need good translations for them.
Do
Right?
they exist?
They exist, but they're mostly done by Oxford or Cambridge scholars. Because I have tried the Indian scholars and their Sanskrit is brilliant, but their English isn't. तो वो translate कैसे करेंगे आप? So the translations don't exist. Kama Sutra was never translated till the British came. It means that जो भी हमें, like our texts were not meant for the common person.
Yeah.
They were only meant for the elite. They were taught that.
Correct.
So we also don't have a system of saying, let's teach.
But so many people reach out to you now, you know. The whole book that she's written, the new one, is about, it's a question and answer format where, you know, I have to say you've answered in a very accessible manner. You haven't sort of intellectualized it too much, and at the same time, it's, you know, nobody is going to feel squeamish reading it. Even, you know, Indians are squeamish. The way you've discussed these things. So clearly you have a wide range of, you know, demographic of people reaching out to you. Is the mindset, the Freudian slip, is the mindset towards female desire from the other side, which is the male of the species, is that changing?
It's definitely changing. I have to say, it's wonderful. There's a lot of men of all ages who are saying, how can I make it better for my partner? There's a lot. But you know, coming back to this idea of spirituality and sexuality, you started with dharma, arth, काम, मोक्ष, right? तो हमने somewhere along the way हमने ये भी कह दिया है कि अगर आप spiritual हैं तो आप sexual desire नहीं आपको हो सकता, right? We first of all said that. अब लोग जब खजुराहो की बात करते हैं, I find it very frustrating. People will always say, अच्छा ये जो sculptures हैं, एक तो the really erotic sculptures, they're like 5%.
हाँ, वो सिर्फ 2 temples में. I was in Khajuraho last month.
Yeah.
वो सिर्फ 2 temples में हैं. बाकी तो
And it's 5%. There's only the rest of them, which don't look erotic. Those are actually the really erotic ones. They have the story behind them. They're fabulous. But, you know, when you look at the Khajuraho temples, people will always say to you, and I'm sure आप सबने सुना होगा कि ये sculptures बाहर हैं ताकि आप अपनी material desires को बाहर छोड़ के फिर अंदर जाइए. Wrong. You cannot approach God in a passionless state. भगवान को पाना इतना आसान नहीं है. आप अपने आप को clinical करके everything, wipe yourself dry. You are not getting to God. This was to raise your desires, your passions. Then you channel them through you the right way. भगवान को पाने के लिए. You know, they are so connected. So ये this particular book.
एक Konark temple के बाहर भी हैं.
Konark temple
And I
के बाहर.
asked the tour guide कि why do you have these kind of erotic sculptures? And he said, oh, just for the entertainment of the public so that they will come to temples. So I'm saying even the tour guides are ill-informed.
Yeah, no, it was so not correct. It was about, you know, also, there's always a Lord Shiva temple in any of these temples, okay? Lord Shiva is the one who's worshipped because he's Nataraj. Lovemaking was seen as choreography. It was not, haath pair maar ke, you know. It was about that beautiful idea of the movement being just right. It was supposed to be a dance of two people coming together. So it's worshipped as choreography. I get very irritated. But anyway, like I was saying, Isme, there's one question that came from somebody who said, so this woman wrote, she said, my husband cheated on me. And he sent his nudes out and things. And when she finally got him, she caught him, she said, why did you do it? So he tells her कि तुमने ना बहुत fast वगैरह करना शुरू कर दिया, तुम religious बन गई हो. And that made me respect you more, and I lost my desire for you. Okay? And so I did this. Now it has brought back my desire, so everything is okay. And she is now, poor thing, crying. She's like, did I do the wrong thing? Was it wrong of me?
We've been taught to second guess ourselves, anyway.
In any way. And it would have been very easy for me to say, no, he's gaslighting you. But I also wanted to validate what he said, because we teach that in society. कि अगर आप spiritual हो, तो आप इस तरह नहीं सोच सकते. So we teach people, we say कि अच्छा ये spiritual है, इसको सिर्फ respect करो. अगर ये इस लड़की के साथ तुम date कर रहे हो, तो ये तुम्हारी बीवी नहीं हो सकती. You've got to have somebody who's pure for your wife. We teach society that, right? We don't tell people कि अगर if you have to build up your chemistry or if you have to build up your libido, conversation कैसे होनी चाहिए? We don't tell people that. We expect them to just know.
There's so much discomfort around these conversations. There is so much discomfort within families, even within siblings, even within progressive families. And I think now this is civilizational. Because so many years have passed that everybody feels awkward and shameful to acknowledge that they have desire, that they have questions about.
Yeah.
And if this is how heterosexual people are, how much worse is it for queer people who can't even turn to somebody to ask them questions? Thankfully, now we have you. But social media has made people like you accessible. But just before Instagram took off in the way that it has, I don't think people would even feel comfortable fixing an appointment with a sexologist to go and address their questions. And I mean, it's just it's really a terrifying state of affairs, especially for the queer community, I feel.
It really is. I just want to tell everybody a story. Can I tell everybody a story?
You must tell.
I'll tell you why I'm telling you this story. Because everybody, when they write to me, they feel so guilty about their sexuality that their first question is, what does it say in our ancient texts? Okay? There's always that. So I want to just tell you a story from one of our ancient texts. So there's this story of a tantri. He's a rishi muni who lives in the forest, practices tantra, and he's very famous. And why is he famous? Because they say that he has done away with all desire. He feels no desire. He cannot be distracted. Nothing can touch him because he wants for nothing. One day the king goes to pay his respects. And this tantri ignores him, and the king ke ego pe bahut pair aa jata hai. And the king is like, the guy didn't even acknowledge me. I went all the way to see him. Whoever can bring him to my palace voluntarily, they can get whatever inam they want. Muh manga. So there's one woman turns up, Vasant Sena, and she says, "Mujhe ye chahiye." And she actually asks for 2 gold bangles with ruby heads. She says, "Ye chahiye, main le aungi." And so the king is like, okay. So she goes to him. And now this tantri, because he's so, he's done away with desire to such an extent, all his wants have gone. He's buried himself in the ground. Only his head is above the ground. And he doesn't even eat anything. There's a little fire in front of him. He just has the smoke from the fire. There are all these anthills that have grown over his head. There are creepy crawlies all over him. It's all horrible. Nothing touches him. So she goes and she mixes up a bowl of honey and all sorts of wonderful things. Gulab, ye wo, sab kuch she mixes up. And then she goes behind him. She puts off the fire. And she goes behind him and she dips her finger in that honey. And she puts it on his lips. Now this tantri had got used to every kida makoda that had ever crawled over him. All the disgusting things didn't bother him. But he had never tasted something as gorgeous as honey with that soft, perfumed finger. Immediately, licks it up. She then dips her finger in that again. And once again, but much slower, she puts it on his lips. He is waiting. He licks it up again. The third time, she puts the finger here and she lifts it up as though she's about to put it, and then she moves it away. And immediately his eyes open. That's all it took. That's all it took. He comes out of that ground, he follows her, he is ready to do whatever. In Tantra, we say, you cannot do away with your arousal. You cannot do away with your desires.
Suppress
Yeah,
it.
you can suppress them, they will come back. The only thing is to acknowledge them, understand them, and then channel them through.
But since you brought up Tantra, you also
I study.
have studied Tantra. And you know, it's again such a nebulous concept because like what does Tantra even mean, for the sake of the audience and for to enlighten me as well?
So Tantra is literally just a philosophy. It is just a philosophy which says that agar Bhagwan ko pana hai, you have to understand everything in this world. There is no good knowledge or bad knowledge. Everything is created by God. Everything is joined. Everything is connected. You have to understand the good, the bad, the birth, the death, the beautiful, the ugly. Everything has to be understood. So you take the next step forward. That's the
So the only Tantra that most people here might have heard of is when it's attached to sex, called Tantric sex.
no such thing. There is actually nothing called tantric sex.
Oh, really?
No. So the idea is there are some sexo-yogic positions in Tantra. And again, it's about arousing those energies. In Tantra, when you do the sexo-yogic positions, they're very, very slow. Because the idea is not to get all bhadkaod and then have an orgasm. That's not what it's about. It is about understanding how to control and channel the energies through the right ways. So yes, there are some sexo-yogic positions and exercises in Tantra, but they're not for pleasure, they're for understanding how to actually take your arousal, your energy, because it's your Shakti. How to take that Shakti upwards.
A lot of parents today are grappling with the problem of children accessing porn online. What is that doing to the generation?
Porn was always there. The only problem is that it's too easily available now. That's the only difference. And I think that's everybody's problem. It's like Instagram. I've had people, good friends, we've gone out for dinner, really fancy, expensive dinner. Baitkar, they're not looking at their text messages or WhatsApp. They're actually scrolling Instagram because वो आदत सी पड़ जाती है.
Doom scrolling.
It's the same thing with porn. It's so easily available that it's just there all the time. So I actually have a chapter here on how to understand how to stop that, or how to at least remove yourself a little bit from that. But you know, it's really important for parents to talk to their children about porn. It's no point saying, नहीं होता, मत देखो. नहीं होता. किसी ने नहीं अब कभी नहीं सुना. When I was in college, I was allowed to date. My best friend was not allowed to date at all. She had the most number of boyfriends. Her father always thought I was responsible. I got told off for all her boyfriends. Just because she was told no, she didn't stop. Nobody does. You have to learn. I had somebody write to me saying that they watched a thing on sibling porn. And he says कि मैं मर रहा हूँ, I can't look at my sister anymore, I feel sick. I think it's so important to talk to children and say this is going to come up. Whether you want to watch it or not, it will happen. Your friends will have it. It'll crop up very easily. You have to become responsible for what you see. Most kids are interested. When I was younger, the only thing you had for porn was magazines. We all got some. We did. Because there's that curiosity. You have to talk to your children about it. It's no point saying, ye hamare sanskar ke khilaf hai. Nobody's listening to that.
But you know, the parents who have to talk to their kids have grown up on Bollywood where two flowers are tingling each other. So, how are they going to have a conversation?
This is it. I'm sorry, but this is your responsibility as a parent, right? all these people who go around saying, "Arey, hamare zamane mein to," sorry, I am older than most of the generation of innocent mothers that these young boys talk about. I am, honestly, I'm 63. I went to college with most of their innocent generation of mothers. I know what we were like. We all got an education. We all went out for parties. We all had boyfriends. We all watched porn. We all did. And the people who weren't allowed to go out at night in those days, we used to have daytime parties. Jiske parents kaam kar rahe the, that flat, that house would be used. The curtains would be blinded out. It would be made dark. And the same parties happened in the afternoon. So I'm sorry. We were all there doing everything.
You know, your candor is so endearing. To be able to talk about the things you talk about in a country or to a population, I know you live in London, but you know, you have you command such a big following here. Do you face any trolling?
Trolling, I think, has become part of everybody's life. It's become worse. Beach mein, there was a lot of gali galoch. Ab wo seedha rape threat, death threat par aa jate hain. Okay? And yes, we all say, "Arey jaane do, kya farak padta hai, mat socho." You wake up to it every day, farak padta hai. So last year, at the start of the year, I actually had a breakdown. I had a really bad breakdown where I went off social media for 2 months. And I then decided that I was not going to respond to I wasn't going to look at the comments. Because when you start looking at the comments, because that's how you improve engagement, right? That you respond to the comments.
Course, yeah.
I was like, chodo engagement nahi hoti, it doesn't matter. I need to continue doing my work or else I will die. I mean, like if I look at those, I will actually end up dead, and I am not exaggerating when I say that. So my daughter gave me some very good advice because unfortunately, agar 1000 log अच्छी चीजें कहें और 2 log gali dein, your brain fixates on that gali.
Yeah.
Okay? And she said to me, she said, "I never want you to respond to that gali. If you're responding, you respond to everybody. You respond to the good ones first. Because all of these people who love you, who are standing there waiting to hear from you, wanting to engage, and the only person you're engaging with is the one who's giving the gali, you're setting a bad precedent. So it's okay, just leave it." So yeah, we have to learn many different ways, and I personally think that schools and colleges should now have a class on how to deal with social media trolling. It's very important. You know, the university in Durham in the UK, they actually started a university course called How to Do Sex Work. Because there are a lot of young people today who are doing sugar work or sex work to put themselves through college. They pay their bills like that. A lot. And the university said, they're being taken advantage of, log inko बेवकूफ़ बना रहे हैं, they need to learn what to do. And of course, they got badly trolled. They still have that course, but under a lot of very strict guidelines. I think that there should be a course on how to deal with trolling.
But when you first started doing your Instagram reels, it was your daughter's suggestion?
It was my daughter's suggestion. It was COVID. My daughter was in her 3rd year. Suddenly, college is closed. She's at home. Na naukri hai, na dost hai, na parties hai. Okay, Mom, let's do something together. 2 years before that, I'd said, "Beta, I'd like to start Instagram." And she said, "Mom, don't be silly. People of your age don't do Instagram." Suddenly she was like, "Okay, let's do Instagram, Mom." So yeah, that's how it started. And in the beginning, I would stay up all night crying when people would write in and say, "Gutter mein jaake mar ja, tu abhi tak zinda kyun hai?" I mean, horrible things.
Mostly men, I would imagine, male
Mostly.
handles, yeah.
Mostly. But yeah, so I would wake her up in the middle of the night and she would have to deal with me and my crying. But we're okay now.
I mean, hats off to you, really. It takes a lot of courage to do what you do. And, step by step, it is making a difference. Conversations are opening up. People are reaching out to you. I guess people who buy her book today, as they must, will, discuss it with their friends. The books will get passed around. So I think the stress you've been through will not be the trauma you've been through, I would say, because trolling can be soul destroying.
It is very.
You know?
And I just want to also say that, part of the reason for this book was that the 60-second reels, they don't answer the questions properly. It's not possible to answer the question. So we decided we would do long format. Log utna sunte nahi hai. So the book came about. But also, somebody had done an event somewhere once, and they said, Seema, if you talk to your children about this subject, they don't want to talk to you. They're like, you can, that whole this thing. So she said, what we do is, we, at dinner tables, they had 2 daughters. She said, we take one of your questions that you've put, and we discuss the question. So what happens is that the daughters also think, कि, अच्छा, it's not about us. Like, it's not कि हमें माँ बाप कोई lecture दे रहे हैं. It gives them a chance to say something, and we also get a chance to put our advice in over there. So I personally think that the next set of kitty parties, dinner parties, with your partner, whatever, take one of the questions, discuss it, because we don't. We don't talk about things. We assume that ye theek ho jayega. We assume that they understand my boundaries.
And also, I think that people have this assumption that a book like this or conversations that you do are about promoting sex. I think no, you're promoting empowerment. I think knowledge is power. And if people know, there's so much coercion that happens in relationship. Women have no agency. Women feel that, they'll get abandoned if they say no.
So, just to give you an idea, when we talk about coercion, so this girl has just written, I haven't done the response yet. She said her partner decided that he wants a threesome. So he's been living away somewhere, got used to watching porn, went through stress, went through depression, has now got into the habit of porn. Now he says to her कि मेरी depression तभी जाएगी अगर तुम threesome के लिए agree कर लोगे. Okay? Now, in his head, that's what he thinks, because that's what's turning him on. And he says that that's the only way he'll get rid of it. She says to me, she says, ma'am, I don't know what to do. Is it normal for somebody to ask, and should I be saying yes to help him? Because he's saying this will help me. Now, just to give you a background on what this is, people think he's saying I'm addicted. This is not an addiction, it's a habit. There's a difference. Secondly, I want her to know, but do we ever tell anybody कि अगर तुम्हारी एक habit है, तुम कुछ चीज़ एक बार करने से वो habit चली नहीं जाती. In any habit, you eat too much chocolate, I will have 1 bar of chocolate, that habit will go away. No, it's not going to go away. Nothing like that is going to happen. But the idea that this is coercion, a lot of women do this for their partners because they feel that they don't know how to say no. And then they say कि we thought वो कह रहा था कि एक बारी कर लो. They do it thinking कि एक बारी हो जाएगा. I had this young married couple in a small tier 2 town, very wealthy couple. She said, he's saying now you have to do it again, otherwise our marriage is over. She said, I did it once. And I hate myself for it. And I just want to say that if you go into this without actually your full consent, eventually it comes back on you. Because either it is you're thinking, अच्छा एक बारी उसने कहा था मैंने कर लिया अब तो वो कह रहा फिर से. Then they say, but you did it last time. You were okay with it. Why are you saying no? Okay? Even if he decides, okay, I don't like it, I have personally heard a guy say, तुमने किया क्यों? I cannot look at you in the same way again. If you were really pure, you would not have done it. You knew I was being unreasonable. There is no winning. And you can't tell other people that I want to break up because this is what this person said, because every society will again say to you, तुमने क्यों किया? If he had said कि कुएं में कूद जाओ, would you have done that?
So, we will, in a minute, we'll take audience questions if there are any. This is my own question, when you look at social media these days, this whole idea of femininity, I'm not sure if it is being understood, if it has expanded or narrowed down, because I see a lot of young girls wearing barely any clothes. I'm talking about Indian girls, because it's not a part of our culture to leave nothing to imagination. Okay? And they think they're embracing their femininity, and I'm not being conservative. I mean, we are all fairly progressive, I would imagine. But I find that people think that that is the best way to get attention, and that's the best way to, build a profile for yourself online. Have you noticed this?
So, okay, let's start with the last thing. Building the profile for yourself online. You know, that is what's getting them the attention. Why would they think it's not correct? Just like the guys who come and troll you, or the guys who come and abuse, have you ever seen the numbers that they have in their followings? They abuse you more because they know that they're going to get it. But I just want to also say that, we all go through phases of our life. We are now at a certain age, we've realized that, ठीक है, ये करने से I'm not getting what I really want. When you're younger, you don't know that. Is there anybody out there teaching you that? No. The only thing you're being told is, mat karo. Nobody's explaining it to you. You have to experiment for yourself. I have done some very weird experiments myself. I will be honest. And I have learned what is wrong. And I've learned the hard way sometimes, but you learn what is not right. Right? And this idea of what you want to wear, can I also tell you that for the longest time, what does press and media show you as sexy?
That's what I'm talking about.
They only show you a little black number. Yeah. If press and media, if popular media showed me 5 things as sexy, baggy jeans and a cool baggy white shirt is super sexy. A sari is super sexy. You can do that. I would pick and choose what I wanted to wear. Not everybody is comfortable wearing a little black number, but we all do it because we think that's what is going to make us look good.
Also, it's being normalized. Teenage girls posting their bikini pictures, all of that has been normalized. So even if you talk to them, they say, but you are from some other generation. This is normal. This is what everybody does.
But as far as I'm concerned, it's okay. They are wearing whatever they're wearing, and it's absolutely okay to do so long as it's a choice that they're making.
Yeah.
And I personally think that we have to now start educating the world to say कि उसने वो कपड़े पहने, that does not mean कि वो तुम्हारे लिए available हो गई है.
Of course, I mean, that is the starting point, 100%. That is what happens, right? She was asking for it. Nobody's asking for it, okay? Just as the man who goes for a jog in tiny shorts, okay? If he gets molested, I mean, men have never been on the other side of this problem, so it's very easy to pass judgment. But, online universe is different. You get a very bad kind of attention, then you get young girls are getting groomed worldwide now, by predators online. So I was talking about it from that point of view, from a safety point of view.
So I unfortunately feel that the safety issue is something that we again have to start with education. Yes, this is, the metaverse is the universe now. ये जो social media का हमारा universe है, यही अब हमारी reality है.
It's true. As dystopian as it is, it's true.
Yeah. So just like at one time you would learn to meet each other at a party or somebody introduced you, now you go on an app. You meet somebody on a dating app, right?
Yeah. True.
Things have changed. This is where our universe is.
Yeah.
I think that we have to start teaching people better manners, to not react like that to people. Sorry.
Baby steps, yes. Is there a mic around? There's a question in the audience. You can get my mic.
Any questions?
Thank you so much, Seema ji and the host, for raising such a sensitive issue. It is, I would say, a very existential crisis, not just for the younger people, but also for parents and for everyone in the society. Yet, because of paucity of time, I'm going to be very direct and very blunt. You have 2 women sitting on the stage, and can I say that you're not being sensitive to the audience here in terms of, if you had left more time for a conversation, maybe men would also have shared their viewpoints. Particularly, I am a father of 2 teenage daughters, no longer teenage. The elder one is 23. She just completed her BTech design and now in Bangalore. Younger one is doing class 12th. So there are certain sensitivities that I carry as a father of 2, budding young daughters. Now, wearing anything is okay. I don't think society or anyone else has any business to comment on what you are wearing or not even wearing. I'm saying very bluntly, very clearly. What really matters is how you carry it. Are you comfortable yourself with wearing or not wearing? I think most of the time, the problem is with women not being comfortable with themselves. This morning I was reading a Facebook post from Iran which said that men coming out of mosque, were rubbing breasts and, like lifting skirts. Now that is the hypocrisy that we need to point out. That is, and I think it comes from conditioning, which needs to be broken.
Sir, excuse me. Can you be a bit brief because you already
see,
overshot? And can you come out with the question, please? Thank you.
That's exactly what I said. I have attended events around the world. There's a fair amount of time that is apportioned for interaction, but that's not the bloody culture in India. I'm sorry, I'm being very blunt, very direct. Thank you
Sir,
so
do you
much.
have a question?
Thank you. I have said enough. Thank you.
You certainly have said enough. And I will also say that if you were all listening, this was the whole point, that we all have things that we feel comfortable with, but if we end up with one idea of what is supposed to look good, everybody ends up with that. It took me years to come to the point where I could say, I feel really good in my sari, I don't care where I am, this is what's going to make me look sexy. And this is exactly what we said. If you had listened, you would have realized that, but that's okay. I understand that all parents I have 3 children, including a daughter. We all have concerns about the safety of our children, and I think that it is very important that we start teaching the men as well here.
Any other question, please?
Can you come in the front and ask? We can't hear you.
I just wanted to say, please keep writing, please keep doing the podcast, and haters gonna hate, right? Thank you so much.
Any other question?
Whatever happened to live and let live?
Did you want to ask something? Yes. Well, I don't know about that.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to know that, how long did it take for you to decide to kind of, to come out and share your thoughts with the world, and especially on a subject which is so bold?
I have to say that I didn't think of it like that when I started working on it. I really didn't. I started working on it, got more and more fascinated. I was like, ऐसा भी होता है, ऐसा भी लोग सोच सकते थे. अरे, this is how we actually thought, and that just drove me forward. It was only when you enter the world of social media at different levels that you realize that it's actually considered brave to talk about it. Till then, it was just normal for me. So, yeah, I think I just started talking about it right from the start. The pushback only came when people entered that space.
Wonderful, ma'am. You are doing a perfect job. Thank you.
Thank you. Akanksha?
Hello ma'am, this is Akanksha and I'm really fascinated by you and I have been following you since 2021 I guess. So I wanted to ask, you just mentioned that you had a breakdown last year. So how did you come back? How did you feel enlightened with spiritually?
See, the thing is that for me, spiritual growth is not different to any other part of me. Spirituality, in ancient times, we believed that, we talk about wellness now as something that you stop your life and then you go and do your wellness. We come from a time when wellness was part of your life. So it was something that you practiced in every part of your, whatever you did. my breakdown was literally from the amount of abuse that I was getting and waking up to it every morning and reading those, and then not just abuse on me, but, you know, abuse to other women, abuse to other people, other guys who were standing up for us, abuse to them. And my brain would function all the time about how I really wanted to tell those people off and how I wanted to protect these people. Eventually, I had to stop thinking about it. So I have a therapist. I go to somebody. I am very, very lucky to have very supportive family. But I also had to go back a lot into meditation just to understand how to manage my thoughts, because my brain used to feel like there was like a shot of electricity going through, and heart rate would go up and things like that. So just learning to understand that, but spirituality is not different or separate as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You are so bold, and that's what this generation demands. Thank you so much.
Hi, ma'am.
Some more questions? Any more question, please?
Yes, I have one. As you have already spoken about the amount of hate you got on social media and about the breakdown, that is about you. Did your family, kids, they face some hate?
So when I first started, my kids faced I also faced a lot of hate amongst our friends circle. And it was really funny because people who were my best friends, so two of the people in the group, one of them was like a surrogate mother to my children. She put out the story that I was a prostitute. So she went around saying, iske saath mat baat karna, iske bachon ke saath mat baat karna. And they tried to do this. Fortunately, I had some friends who stuck by me. The others didn't. The only thing that I decided to do was I decided to talk about it. So when I started saying, oh, look, this person said this about me, everyone said, Seema, don't talk about it, don't talk about it. I say, badnami hogi, sharm. I was like, nahi yaar, why are we protecting the abusers? Meri badnami kyun hogi if somebody else is saying this? So I decided to raise my voice. It settled things like that, like I still have my group of friends. The ones I lost, I lost. The thing is that my children have been my biggest cheerleaders. Like they've actually been there to support me. Even more than my husband. Because in the beginning, he was like, what are you doing? He's a Punjabi man, okay? He's half Punjabi, half Sindhi. And he's of a certain age group. He's now going to be 74 next month. So it wasn't easy for him. It didn't go down very well with certain other family members. My children never backed down, and aside from listening to this crap in the social circles, I think they've been fine. They have never actually faced any of it. And the really important thing I have decided is that I always am on their side, no matter what anybody else says, whether it's about their clothes or what they're doing or who they're going out with. I support them. So it's never ke log kya kahenge. It's always, I'm sorry, I get emotional when I think about this, but it's always, my children come first. So I think we have that bond. So you have to build the bond of strength.
I'm glad you guys have that bond, but
just to also say that my daughter always jokes and says that they have disappointed me because nobody's diverse. They're all straight. She says, we could have come home with anybody and mom would have accepted them, and look, we've all got such, yeah, sorry.
Was there ever a point in your life when your kids were like coming back home, got some trolls, and they're like, Mama, nahi ho raha. Yeah, Mama, maybe you can be a bit not bold?
No, actually, it was always that if anybody says anything to you, we will beat them up. So it's never, yeah. They've never actually. I think that they are very, very touchwood, very proud of my work, and I'm glad.
Did you ever not feel that they're not speaking to you about it? Maybe.
We should wrap it. We need to wrap it up now because there are other panels. We'll hold them up. I think you all can. There'll be some author book signing soon. Is there some book signing happening here? Yeah. So you can come and get your book signed by Seema there.
Before we let them go, we must acknowledge and thank them, both of them, Seema ji. just some time back, I was discussing with Kunal, the program director, that we must invite Seema ji. And the publishers told us, no, she's not around and she might not be available. But मुझे वो Paulo Coelho की वो जो एक जो बड़ी famous universe conspires, to have you here. So we're really excited and honored to have you here. And before we let you go, guys, we have this book, this beautiful book by this beautiful author. So it is available here, and you all are invited to buy one, get one signed from her. She's come a long way here for the Delhi Literature Festival, and I'll request my friends to present a small.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for helping us to define desire in our own terms.